The bedroom door stood half open, and through that narrow space, Naomi saw everything that would change her life. Her husband Brandon was on their bed, the one they had picked out together 3 years ago, the one with the expensive memory foam mattress he insisted they needed. He was not alone. Tiffany, his secretary, the woman who always smiled too brightly when Naomi called the office, was there with him. Their clothes lay scattered across the carpet like evidence at a crime scene. Naomi did not gasp. She did not cry. She did not even breathe loudly. She stood in the hallway of her own home, holding a bag of groceries she had just bought to make Brandon's favorite dinner, and she watched. Her mind did not process emotions in that moment. Instead, it calculated. It measured. It planned. 3 years of marriage. 5 years together before that. 8 years total of her life spent building a home with this man. And here he was, destroying it all in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon. The bread in her grocery bag was getting crushed by her grip, but Naomi did not loosen her hold. She watched as Brandon kissed Tiffany's neck, as Tiffany laughed softly, as they moved together with the comfort of people who had done this many times before. This was not a one-time mistake. This was a pattern. A habit. A choice made over and over again. Naomi's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out slowly, carefully, making no sound. A text from Brandon, sent 20 minutes ago. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. She looked at the message, then looked back through the doorway at her husband, who was very much not working unless this counted as some twisted job requirement. Something inside Naomi clicked into place. Not heartbreak, not yet. That would come later in private where no one could see. What clicked into place was clarity. Pure, cold clarity. She had given this man 8 years. She had supported his business when it struggled. She had put her own dreams on hold to be the perfect wife, the perfect partner, the perfect support system. And this was how he repaid her. Naomi backed away from the door, step by careful step. The groceries went into the kitchen. She unpacked them methodically, putting everything in its proper place. The chicken went into the refrigerator. The vegetables into the crisper drawer. The bread, now misshapen from her grip, into the bread box. She moved like a person in a dream, or perhaps more accurately, like a person who had just woken up from one. Her laptop sat on the dining room table. Naomi opened it and stared at the screen. For 2 years she had been working on something. A software platform that could revolutionize how small businesses manage their operations. She had been developing it slowly, carefully, in the hours when Brandon was at work or asleep. She had told him about it once in the early stages and he had laughed. That's cute, he had said. But let's be realistic. You're not a tech person. She was actually. Before she met Brandon, before she became the woman who organized his life and managed his household, Naomi had been a computer science major with big dreams and bigger ambitions. She had set those dreams aside because Brandon needed her. His business needed support. Their life together needed her full attention. What a fool she had been. Naomi opened her files and looked at her work. The platform was nearly finished. She had been hesitating, unsure if it was good enough, unsure if she should really try to launch it. Brandon's voice echoed in her head every time she thought about moving forward. Be realistic. Well, reality had just slapped her in the face. And she was done being the supportive wife who made herself smaller so her husband could feel bigger. She heard movement upstairs. Laughter. The shower turning on. They were not even trying to hide it anymore, probably because they thought she would not be home for another hour. Naomi pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts until she found the name she was looking for, Gregory Patterson. She had known Gregory in college. They had been study partners, friends, the kind of people who understood each other's ambitions. Gregory had gone on to become a venture capitalist, one of the successful ones, the kind of person who could turn a good idea into a great business. She had not talked to Gregory in 2 years, not since Brandon made it clear he did not like her having male friends. But now, sitting at her dining room table while her husband showered off his affair upstairs, Naomi did not care what Brandon liked. She typed out a message, Gregory, this is Naomi. I have a business proposition. Are you available to talk? The reply came back in less than a minute. Naomi. Long time. I'm always available for a good opportunity. What are you thinking? Naomi smiled for the first time that day. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just seen the chessboard clearly, who knew exactly which pieces to move and in what order. I have a software platform that could change the market, she typed. I need funding and guidance to launch it properly. Can we meet this week? Tomorrow. I'll send you my office address. Looking forward to it. Naomi closed her laptop just as Brandon came downstairs, his hair wet, wearing the bathrobe she had bought him for Christmas. He smiled at her, that same charming smile that had won her over 8 years ago. "Hey baby," he said. "When did you get home?" "Just a few minutes ago," Naomi lied smoothly. "I brought groceries." "You're the best." He kissed her cheek and Naomi forced herself not to flinch. She could smell Tiffany's perfume on him, that cheap floral scent that Tiffany wore too much of. "Where's Tiffany?" Naomi asked, keeping her voice casual. Brandon's smile faltered for just a second. "She left already. We were just going over some files for tomorrow's meeting." "Of course," Naomi said. "I'm sure it was very productive." She turned away before he could see her expression. She did not want him to see the cold determination that had settled into her features. Let him think she was oblivious. Let him think she was the naive wife who believed his lies. It would make what came next so much more satisfying. That night, Naomi lay in bed next to Brandon, staring at the ceiling while he slept peacefully beside her. She did not sleep. Her mind was too busy planning, calculating, preparing. By morning she had a complete strategy mapped out in her head. It would take time. It would take patience. But when she was done, Brandon would understand exactly what he had thrown away. And she would never ever look back. Brandon brought up divorce 3 weeks after Naomi had found him with Tiffany. They were sitting at the breakfast table, the same table where they had shared thousands of meals together, and he was nervous. She could see it in the way he kept adjusting his coffee cup, in the way he would not quite meet her eyes. "Naomi, we need to talk," he began. She looked up from her toast, keeping her expression neutral. "About what?" "About us. About our marriage." He paused, waiting for her to react. When she did not, he continued. "I think we've grown apart. I think maybe we want different things now." "Are you asking for a divorce?" Naomi asked. Her voice was calm, almost detached. Brandon blinked, clearly surprised by her directness. Yes. I think that would be best for both of us." "Okay," Naomi said simply. "Okay." Brandon repeated. He had clearly been expecting tears, arguments, pleas for couples therapy. Just like that. Just like that. Naomi took a sip of her orange juice. "If you're unhappy, then there's no point dragging this out. We can file the papers this week." Brandon looked confused, then relieved, then suspicious. "What about the house? The assets?" "You can have the house," Naomi said. "I'll take my personal belongings and my car. You can keep everything else." "Everything?" Brandon's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" "Completely sure." Naomi stood up from the table. "I assume you'll want to have your lawyer draw up the papers?" Yes. Yes, of course." Brandon was staring at her like he had never seen her before. "Naomi, are you feeling all right?" "I'm feeling perfectly fine," she said. "Better than I have in years, actually." That was not entirely a lie. In the 3 weeks since she had found Brandon with Tiffany, Naomi had met with Gregory twice. Both meetings had gone better than she could have hoped. Gregory had reviewed her software platform and called it brilliant. He had connections with several major investors who were looking for exactly this kind of opportunity. By the end of their second meeting, Gregory had offered to back her company himself and help her build a team. "I can't believe you've been sitting on this," Gregory had said, scrolling through her code on his tablet. "This is exactly what the market needs right now. Small businesses are desperate for affordable, streamlined operations management. You've created something that could genuinely change the industry." Naomi had smiled, a real smile this time. "So you think it could work?" "I think it's going to be massive," Gregory had replied. "We should incorporate immediately. I have a lawyer who can handle that. And I know several people who would be perfect for your initial team." Now, watching Brandon stammer his way through breakfast, Naomi felt nothing but relief. This marriage had been holding her back. Brandon had been holding her back. She had spent years making herself smaller, simpler, easier to manage. No more. The divorce papers arrived a week later. Naomi read through them carefully, signed every page, and returned them without making a single change. Brandon's lawyer called her 3 times, clearly confused about why she was not fighting for anything. "Mrs. Sterling," the lawyer said on the 3rd call, "I really think you should have your own representation. This settlement is very one-sided." "I'm aware," Naomi replied. "And I'm fine with it. But the house alone is worth over $500,000 and the joint accounts. Mr. Brighton, I appreciate your concern, but I know exactly what I'm doing. Please process the papers as written." She hung up before he could argue further. The truth was, the house and the joint accounts were nothing compared to what she was building. Gregory had helped her incorporate her company, which she had named Precision Solutions. They had secured initial funding of $5 million from 3 different investors. Naomi had hired a small team of developers and a business manager. They were working out of a rented office space in the downtown business district. Every day, Naomi went to work at Precision Solutions while Brandon thought she was job hunting or visiting friends. She wore simple clothes, drove her modest car and kept a low profile. She wanted no one to know what she was doing, least of all her soon-to-be ex-husband. Tiffany moved into the house 2 months before the divorce was finalized. Naomi was packing up the last of her belongings when Tiffany arrived, carrying a designer purse that probably cost more than Naomi's entire wardrobe. "Oh," Tiffany said, stopping in the doorway. "Brandon didn't tell me you'd be here." "I'm just getting my things," Naomi replied evenly. She taped up a box of books and labeled it with a marker. Tiffany stood awkwardly in the entryway, clearly unsure what to say. Finally, she blurted out, "I hope there are no hard feelings." Naomi turned to look at her. Really look at her. Tiffany was younger, maybe 25 to Naomi's 32. She had that fresh-faced look that men like Brandon always seemed to prefer, all smooth skin and bright eyes and naive enthusiasm. "Why would there be hard feelings?" Naomi asked. "Well, because of, you know." Tiffany gestured vaguely. "Because you slept with my husband?" Naomi said it matter-of-factly, like she was discussing the weather. Tiffany flushed red. Oh, we didn't mean for it to happen." "Of course you did." Naomi picked up another box. "These things always mean to happen. But it's fine. Actually, you did me a favor." "A favor?" Tiffany looked genuinely confused. "Absolutely. I was stuck in a marriage that was making me miserable. I just didn't realize it until you came along and showed me the truth. So thank you." Naomi walked past Tiffany with her box, leaving the younger woman standing in the hallway with her mouth open. She loaded the box into her car, then came back for the next one. Tiffany had disappeared somewhere into the house, probably to find Brandon and tell him about their weird conversation. It took Naomi 3 trips to get all her belongings. When she was done, she stood in the driveway and looked back at the house. She had thought she would feel sad, leaving behind the home she had helped create. But instead she felt light. Free. Like she had been carrying a heavy weight and had finally set it down. Her phone buzzed with a message from Gregory, "Board meeting tomorrow at 9. Big news. You're going to love this." Naomi smiled and got into her car. She had rented a small apartment across town, nothing fancy, but it was hers. The divorce would be final in 4 weeks. Brandon thought he was winning, getting the house and most of the assets, while his naive ex-wife walked away with almost nothing. He had no idea what was coming. At Precision Solutions, Naomi's team was making incredible progress. They had completed the first full version of the software and were ready to start beta testing with actual businesses. Gregory had lined up 15 companies who were eager to try the platform. If the beta testing went well, they would launch publicly in 6 months. Naomi drove to her new apartment, parked in the small lot, and carried her boxes upstairs. The apartment was mostly empty, just a mattress on the floor and a folding table with her laptop. She did not care about furniture right now. She cared about building something that would last, something that was entirely hers. That night, she worked until 3 in the morning, refining code and responding to her team's questions. When she finally fell asleep, she dreamed of the future, of standing in a gleaming office building with her name on it, of proving to everyone who had ever doubted her that she was capable of extraordinary things. Brandon thought he had won. But the game had just begun, and Naomi was playing a different game entirely. One he did not even know existed yet. The beta testing results came back better than anyone had expected. All 15 companies reported significant improvements in their operations within the first month of using Precision Solutions. Efficiency went up, costs went down, and several of the business owners personally called Naomi to tell her the platform had changed everything for them. "I can't believe this exists," one restaurant owner told her on the phone. "I've been struggling with inventory management for years. Your system solved it in a week." Gregory was practically glowing when he showed Naomi the feedback reports. "This is it," he said. "This is the kind of response that turns a startup into a major player. We need to accelerate the public launch." They moved the timeline up by 2 months. Naomi's team expanded from 5 people to 20. They moved into a larger office space, a full floor in a modern building with glass walls and an open floor plan. Every morning, Naomi walked into that office and felt a surge of pride. She had built this. Not Brandon, not anyone else. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday morning. Naomi signed the final papers in a lawyer's office, and that was it. 8 years of marriage ended with a few signatures. Brandon did not even show up. He sent his lawyer to handle everything. Mr. Sterling sends his best wishes, the lawyer said awkwardly. How kind, Naomi replied, her voice dry. She gathered her copy of the divorce decree and left. That same afternoon, she had a meeting with a group of venture capitalists from California. They were interested in investing a substantial amount of money into Precision Solutions. The meeting was scheduled to last 1 hour. It went for 3. By the end, they had committed $20 million to the company's expansion. Naomi walked out of that meeting feeling like she was floating. $20 million. Her little software platform that Brandon had called cute now had major investors competing to give her money. She called Gregory from the parking lot. They said yes. All of it. I knew they would, Gregory laughed. Naomi, do you realize what this means? We can expand nationally. We can hire the best developers in the country. We can market this properly. I realize, Naomi said softly. Gregory, I need to ask you something. Why are you doing this? You could have taken my idea and run with it yourself. You could have pushed me out of my own company. Why didn't you? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Gregory said, because you're brilliant and the world needs to see that. I believe in backing talented people, not stealing from them. Plus, I remember you from college. You were always the smartest person in the room. You just needed someone to believe in you. Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them away quickly. Thank you. That means more than you know. Thank me by making this company everything it can be, Gregory replied. Now go celebrate. You just secured $20 million. That's worth at least a nice dinner. Naomi did celebrate, but not in the way Gregory probably imagined. She went home to her still mostly empty apartment, ordered pizza, and spent the evening reviewing the expansion plans her team had prepared. She made notes, asked questions in the company chat, and refined their strategy until midnight. Meanwhile, Brandon was discovering that running his business without Tiffany as his secretary was harder than he had expected. Tiffany had quit her job the moment she moved into the house, confident that Brandon would support her. But Brandon's small consulting firm was not doing well. Several clients had left recently, complaining about poor communication and missed deadlines. Naomi heard about this through mutual friends who still talked to both of them. She listened to the gossip without comment, filing the information away in the back of her mind. Brandon's struggles were not her concern anymore. She had bigger things to focus on. Precision Solutions launched publicly 4 months after the divorce was finalized. The launch event was held at an upscale hotel downtown. Over 300 people attended, including business owners, investors, tech journalists, and industry leaders. Naomi gave a speech about the platform's capabilities and her vision for the future of business management software. She wore a royal blue dress that hugged her curves perfectly, her natural hair styled in elegant curls, and heels that made her feel powerful and confident. When she walked onto that stage, every person in the room watched her. This was her moment, the culmination of years of work and months of intense preparation. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy, Naomi began. But too often they struggle with basic operational challenges because the available tools are either too expensive or too complicated. I created Precision Solutions to change that. Our platform is affordable, intuitive, and powerful. It gives small business owners the same advantages that large corporations have, without the massive price tag. The crowd applauded. Naomi continued, walking them through the platform's features, showing real examples from the beta testing, and explaining her plans for future development. By the end of her speech, people were standing, clapping enthusiastically. That night, Precision Solutions got its first 100 paying customers. By the end of the week, that number had doubled. By the end of the month, they had over 1,000 clients across 15 states. The company's value grew rapidly. What had started as a $5 million startup was now worth over $50 million, and the numbers kept climbing. Gregory called Naomi one morning with news that made her stop in her tracks. We just got a buyout offer, he said. A major tech company wants to purchase Precision Solutions for $300 million. Naomi sat down heavily on her office chair. $300 million? That's right. And that's just the opening offer. We could probably negotiate for more. What do you think we should do? Naomi asked. That depends on what you want, Gregory replied. If you take the offer, you walk away a very wealthy woman. If you refuse, we keep building, and in a few years this company could be worth billions. But that's a risk. The safe choice is to sell now. Naomi thought about it for a long moment. She thought about Brandon, who had told her to be realistic. She thought about Tiffany, who probably expected Naomi to be struggling right now. She thought about all the people who had underestimated her over the years. "We're not selling," she said finally. "Not yet. We're going to build this into something that can't be ignored." Gregory laughed. "I was hoping you'd say that. Let's get to work." The months that followed were intense. Naomi worked 12-hour days, sometimes longer. She traveled to other cities to meet with potential clients and investors. She gave interviews to business magazines and appeared on podcasts. Her face and name started appearing in articles about successful entrepreneurs and innovative tech leaders. And through it all, she never once contacted Brandon or Tiffany. She did not seek them out. She did not try to show off her success. She simply built her empire, one careful decision at a time, knowing that eventually the truth would reveal itself. The court date for the final asset division hearing was set for 8 months after the divorce was finalized. It was a formality, really, since Naomi had not contested anything in the original settlement. But the hearing had to happen anyway to close out the case completely. Naomi marked the date on her calendar. 8 months was plenty of time to make sure Brandon understood exactly what he had lost when he chose Tiffany over her. The morning of the court hearing, Naomi woke up at 5. She had barely slept, not from nerves but from anticipation. This was the day everything would come together, the day when Brandon would finally see what he had thrown away. She showered, taking her time, letting the hot water wash away any lingering doubts or worries. When she stepped out, she looked at herself in the mirror. She had changed over the past 8 months. Not just physically, though she looked healthier and more confident than she had in years. The real change was internal. She knew her worth now. She knew what she was capable of. Naomi dried off and walked to her closet. It was no longer the sparse collection it had been when she first moved into this apartment. Now it held designer clothes, beautiful dresses, and professional outfits that cost more than she used to spend on groceries in a month. But today required something special. She pulled out a red power suit. The jacket was perfectly tailored to her shoulders, the pants cut to emphasize her height. The color was bold, commanding, impossible to ignore. She paired it with a white silk blouse and black heels. Her natural hair was styled in soft waves that framed her face beautifully. She put on minimal makeup, just enough to enhance her features, and the diamond earrings Gregory had given her as a congratulations gift when they hit their first 100 million in company value. Looking at herself in the mirror, Naomi barely recognized the woman staring back. This was not the quiet, supportive wife who had shrunk herself to make Brandon feel bigger. This was a CEO, a business owner, a woman who had built an empire from nothing. Her phone rang. It was Timothy, her executive assistant. "The jet is ready when you are, Miss Sterling." "I'll be there in 20 minutes, Naomi replied. She had not told anyone except her closest team members about this particular detail. Gregory had suggested it weeks ago. "Make an entrance," he had said. "Let them see exactly who you are now." The private jet was Gregory's idea of making an entrance. It was not hers technically. The jet belonged to one of Precision Solutions' major investors, a billionaire named Robert Chin who had become a mentor and friend over the past few months. When Robert heard about the court hearing, he insisted Naomi use his jet. "This is your moment," Robert had said. "Don't arrive in a taxi. Arrive like the powerful woman you are." Naomi had hesitated at first. It felt excessive, maybe even petty. But then she thought about Brandon's smug face, about Tiffany's confident assumption that Naomi would be broken and struggling. And she said yes. The drive to the small private airport took 15 minutes. Naomi's driver, James, pulled up right next to the jet. It was sleek and white, with Precision Solutions' logo displayed prominently on the side. Gregory had arranged that detail as a surprise. "Ready for this?" Gregory asked, appearing from inside the jet. "More than ready," Naomi replied. They boarded together. The interior was luxurious but tasteful, all soft leather seats and polished wood accents. Naomi settled into a seat and buckled in as the pilot announced their departure. The flight to the courthouse was short, less than 30 minutes. The courthouse was in a different county, one with its own small regional airport. Gregory had arranged for several business reporters to be present when they landed, supposedly covering a story about Precision Solutions' expansion into the area. But Naomi knew they would also capture her arrival. When the jet touched down, Naomi felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it. The moment she had been planning for, working toward, building toward. The stairs lowered and Naomi stood. She smoothed her red jacket, lifted her chin, and walked down the steps with Gregory behind her. Cameras flashed immediately. Reporters called out questions. "Miss Sterling, is it true Precision Solutions is opening a new office here?" "Miss Sterling, Can you comment on the rumors about international expansion? Miss Sterling, what brings you to this county today? Naomi smiled, pausing at the bottom of the stairs. Precision Solutions is always looking for opportunities to grow. As for what brings me here today, I have a personal matter to attend to at the courthouse. Thank you all for your interest. She walked toward the waiting car, Gregory beside her, while cameras continued to flash. Behind her, the jet sat gleaming in the morning sun, Precision Solutions logo visible to everyone watching. The drive to the courthouse took 10 minutes. When they pulled up, Naomi could see a small crowd had already gathered. News traveled fast in small towns. People had heard about the private jet landing at their local airport, had seen the photos already circulating on social media, and had come to see what the fuss was about. Brandon's car was parked in the courthouse lot. It was the same sedan he had driven for years, looking worn and tired compared to the sleek black car Naomi emerged from. She walked up the courthouse steps, her heels clicking against the stone, her red suit bright against the gray building. People stared. She heard whispers, saw phones come out to take photos. She kept her expression calm and confident, neither smiling nor frowning, just moving forward with purpose. Inside the courthouse, the reception area was busy with people handling various legal matters. When Naomi walked in, conversation stopped. Heads turned. The receptionist at the main desk actually dropped her pen. I'm here for the Sterling divorce hearing, final asset division, Naomi said calmly. Courtroom 3. Oh, yes. Of course, Miss Sterling. The receptionist fumbled with her computer. They're expecting you. Naomi thanked her and walked toward the courtroom. Behind her, she heard the whispers starting again, people pulling out their phones to search her name, to figure out who she was and why she had arrived in a private jet. Gregory walked beside her, carrying a leather briefcase. You know this is going to be all over the local news by tonight, he said quietly. I'm counting on it, Naomi replied. They reached the courtroom doors. Through the small window, Naomi could see Brandon and Tiffany sitting at one table with Brandon's lawyer. They were talking quietly, looking relaxed, probably expecting this to be a quick, easy proceeding where they confirmed that Naomi had taken nothing and they had taken everything. Naomi put her hand on the door handle. This was the moment. After 8 months of building her company, of proving herself, of becoming someone new and powerful and undeniable, she was finally going to show Brandon exactly what he had lost. She pushed the door open and walked in, her red suit a statement, her presence commanding immediate attention. Brandon looked up, his expression confused at first, then shocked as he registered who was walking toward him. Tiffany's mouth fell open. And Naomi smiled, a small, satisfied smile, as she took her seat at the opposite table and prepared to watch their world crumble. The judge was an older woman with sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She looked up as Naomi entered and something flickered across her face. Recognition, perhaps, or simply curiosity about why a woman in a designer suit had just walked into her courtroom with the kind of presence usually reserved for major corporate litigation. Miss Sterling, the judge said, glancing at her papers. You're representing yourself today? Actually, Your Honor, a voice said from the doorway, Miss Sterling has representation. Everyone turned. A tall man in an expensive charcoal suit walked in, carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than Brandon's car. This was Nathan Price, one of the top lawyers in New York, someone whose hourly rate was more than most people made in a month. Gregory had insisted on hiring him, saying this moment deserved the best. Nathan Price, Your Honor, from Price & Associates in New York. I'll be representing Miss Sterling today. Brandon's lawyer, a local attorney named Mr. Brighton, looked like he had just swallowed something sour. Everyone in the legal community knew who Nathan Price was. Having him show up for what should have been a simple asset division hearing was like bringing a tank to a water balloon fight. Mr. Price, the judge said, clearly intrigued now. This is unexpected. Please proceed. Nathan sat down next to Naomi, opening his briefcase with practiced ease. Thank you, Your Honor. We appreciate the court's time today. Brandon was staring at Naomi like she had grown a second head. Tiffany was gripping his arm, her earlier confidence completely gone. She kept looking between Naomi, the expensive lawyer, and the courtroom door as if expecting more surprises to walk through. The judge reviewed her documents. This is a final asset division hearing for the divorce of Brandon Sterling and Naomi Sterling. According to the filed paperwork, the division was already agreed upon by both parties. Ms. Naomi Sterling accepted no assets, no alimony, and no shared property. Mr. Brandon Sterling retained the house, the joint accounts, and all marital assets. Is this correct? That is correct, Your Honor, Mr. Brighton said, standing up. This hearing is simply a formality to close out the case. Both parties agreed to these terms months ago. Miss Sterling, the judge turned to Naomi. Is this your understanding as well? Naomi stood, her red suit vibrant under the courtroom's fluorescent lights. Your Honor, I agreed to those terms at the time, yes. I wanted nothing from the marriage. And yet you've hired one of the most expensive lawyers in the country to attend a formality hearing, the judge observed. There was the slightest hint of amusement in her voice. I wanted to ensure everything was properly documented, Your Honor, Naomi replied calmly. Precision is important to me. Nathan Price stood. Your Honor, if I may, while the division of marital assets was settled, there are several matters that need to be clarified for the record, particularly regarding Miss Sterling's current financial status and business holdings. Brandon's lawyer frowned. Your Honor, Miss Sterling's current finances are not relevant to this hearing. The division was settled. This is merely a formality. Actually, Nathan said, pulling out a folder, it is relevant. During the marriage, Miss Sterling developed intellectual property that has since become a substantial business asset. While this property was created during the marriage, it was developed entirely through Miss Sterling's independent work and was never disclosed to Mr. Sterling. We need to establish for the record that this property was and is entirely Miss Sterling's, with no claim from Mr. Sterling. What intellectual property? Brandon stood up, ignoring his lawyer's attempts to pull him back down. Naomi doesn't have any business. She was job hunting. Naomi turned to look at her ex-husband. 8 months ago that dismissive tone would have hurt. Now it just felt satisfying because she knew what was coming next. Mr. Sterling, the judge said sharply, please sit down and let your lawyer speak. Brandon sat, but he was leaning forward, his face red. Nathan continued. Your Honor, during the marriage, Miss Sterling developed a software platform for business operations management. This platform is now the foundation of Precision Solutions, a company that Miss Sterling founded and currently runs as CEO. The company has grown substantially in the past 8 months. He pulled out a document and handed copies to the judge and to Mr. Brighton. These are the company's current financial statements, valuation reports, and documentation showing that all development work was done by Miss Sterling independently, using her own knowledge and skills, with no contribution from Mr. Sterling. The judge began reading. Her eyebrows rose slightly. Mr. Brighton was reading too, his eyes widening with each page. Your Honor, Mr. Brighton said, his voice strained, I was not aware of any of this. My client certainly was not informed. Why would your client need to be informed? Nathan asked calmly. The divorce was settled. Miss Sterling took nothing from the marriage. What she built after the separation is entirely her own achievement. But during the marriage, Mr. Brighton started. During the marriage, Miss Sterling developed software using her own computer, her own time, and her own expertise, Nathan interrupted. Mr. Sterling contributed nothing to this development. He was not even aware it existed. Miss Sterling funded the initial work herself through savings from a part-time job. Everything about Precision Solutions is separate from the marriage. The judge was still reading. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of pages turning. Naomi sat perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap, watching Brandon's face as understanding slowly dawned. Finally the judge looked up. Miss Sterling, according to these documents, Precision Solutions is currently valued at over $500 million. Is that accurate? Yes, Your Honor, Naomi replied. We received that valuation last month from 3 independent assessors. Brandon made a choking sound. Tiffany had gone completely pale. 500 million, the judge repeated. And you developed this entirely on your own? With the help of investors and a talented team, yes, Naomi said. But the core platform, the intellectual property, that was my work. The judge looked at Brandon. Mr. Sterling, were you aware that your wife was developing this software during your marriage? Brandon opened his mouth, closed it, then finally said, she mentioned something about a project once. I thought it was a hobby. A hobby, the judge repeated, her tone dry. I didn't think it was serious, Brandon continued, his voice rising. She never told me it was worth anything. She never said she was starting a company. Why would she need to tell you? The judge asked. You were divorcing. According to these papers, the company was incorporated 2 weeks after you filed for divorce. Everything happened after the separation. But she was planning it during the marriage, Brandon protested. She was working on it while we were still together. Working on a personal project is not a crime, Mr. Sterling, the judge said. Nor does it entitle you to any portion of what became of that project, especially since you explicitly stated you thought it was not serious. You cannot now claim interest in something you dismissed and had no knowledge of. Nathan Price pulled out another document. For the record, Your Honor, here is documentation showing that all of Precision Solutions funding came from outside investors. No marital assets were used in the company's creation. Miss Sterling's car, which she took from the marriage, was purchased by her before the marriage with her own money. She has receipts. Everything else, every dollar that built Precision Solutions came after the divorce was filed. The judge nodded, making notes. Mr. Brighton, does your client wish to contest any of this? Mr. Brighton looked at Brandon, who looked like he was trying to process information that did not fit into his understanding of reality. His wife, the woman he had cheated on, the woman he had expected to be broken and struggling, was a multimillionaire. Actually, given the company valuation and her ownership stake, she was likely worth well over $200 million personally. Your Honor, I need time to consult with my client, Mr. Brighton said weakly. There's nothing to consult about, Nathan said. The divorce is final. The assets were divided according to Mr. Sterling's preferences. He got the house, the bank accounts, everything he wanted. What Miss Sterling built afterward is hers alone. We're simply establishing this for the record so there can be no future claims. The judge reviewed her notes one more time, then looked up. I agree with Mr. Price. The assets were divided, Mr. Sterling got everything he asked for, and what Miss Sterling accomplished after the separation is entirely separate from the marriage. There is no legal basis for any claim on Precision Solutions or its assets. She stamped a document. This hearing is concluded. The asset division stands as originally agreed. Miss Sterling, congratulations on your business success. Mr. Sterling, this case is now closed. The gavel came down with a sharp crack that seemed to echo through the silent courtroom. It was over. Brandon did not move when the judge left the courtroom. He sat frozen in his chair, staring at the papers Nathan Price had left on the table. The financial statements. The company valuation. The proof that Naomi had built something extraordinary while he thought she was falling apart. Tiffany touched his arm. Brandon, we should go. He did not respond. His eyes were fixed on one number in particular. $500 million. 500 million. The number kept repeating in his head like a broken record. Naomi stood, smoothing her red jacket. She picked up her purse, a designer bag that probably cost more than their wedding had, and turned to leave. She did not look at Brandon. She did not gloat or say anything cutting. She simply walked toward the door like he was not even worth her attention. That somehow made it worse. Naomi, wait, Brandon finally said, finding his voice. He stood up quickly, knocking his chair backward. Naomi paused at the door but did not turn around. When did you? Brandon could not even form a complete sentence. His mind was spinning, trying to reconcile the quiet wife he thought he knew with the powerful CEO who had just walked into this courtroom. How did I build a successful company? Naomi asked, still not turning around. I worked. Every single day. While you were busy with Tiffany, I was building something real. You never told me, Brandon said, his voice accusatory. You never said you were doing this. Now Naomi did turn around. Her expression was calm, almost pitying. I told you about my project 2 years ago. You laughed. You said it was cute and that I should be realistic. So I stopped telling you things, Brandon. I stopped sharing my dreams because you made it clear they did not matter to you. That was different. That was before. Before what? Before you decided I was not enough? Before you started sleeping with your secretary? Naomi's voice was still calm, but there was steel underneath it. I built this company because I finally realized I did not need your approval to do something extraordinary. I just needed to believe in myself. She walked out before Brandon could respond. Nathan Price followed her, closing the door behind them with a quiet click. In the courtroom, Tiffany stood next to Brandon, her face pale. $500 million, she whispered. Brandon turned to look at her. Really look at her. Tiffany was wearing a designer dress that she had bought with his credit card. Her hair was done, her makeup perfect. She looked like the trophy girlfriend he had thought he wanted. But now, standing in this courtroom, all he could think about was the woman who had just left. The woman he had discarded. I need to talk to her, Brandon said suddenly. What? Tiffany's voice rose. Why would you need to talk to her? Because Brandon stopped. Because why? Because he wanted to understand how she had done this? Because some part of him thought maybe he could still benefit from her success? Because he suddenly realized what he had thrown away? Mr. Brighton gathered his papers, clearly eager to leave this disaster behind. Mr. Sterling, I strongly advise you not to contact your ex-wife. The divorce is final. Any attempt to pursue her assets now would be seen as harassment. I don't want her assets, Brandon said, though even as he said it, he was not sure it was entirely true. I just want to understand. Then I suggest you figure that out on your own time, Mr. Brighton replied. Because legally you have no claim to anything she's built. You signed away any rights when you accepted the divorce terms. This case is closed. The lawyer left. Brandon and Tiffany stood alone in the empty courtroom. Let's just go home, Tiffany said. She sounded tired suddenly, the excitement of moving into Brandon's house and playing at being his girlfriend wearing thin. They drove home in silence. The house that had seemed so perfect when Brandon got to keep it now felt hollow. It needed repairs that Brandon could not quite afford. The mortgage was higher than he remembered. Without Naomi's part-time job income helping with bills, money was tighter than it used to be. Brandon's consulting business was struggling. He had lost 3 major clients in the past few months. 2 of them had specifically said they were taking their business elsewhere, though they did not say why. The 3rd had just stopped returning his calls. What Brandon did not know was that those clients had been contacted by other companies offering similar services at better rates. What he really did not know was that one of those other companies was run by a business associate of Gregory's, someone who had heard about Brandon's treatment of Naomi and decided he did not want to work with that kind of person. The business community was smaller than people thought. Word got around. And when word got around that Brandon Sterling had cheated on his brilliant wife, had dismissed her work, and was now shocked that she had become wildly successful without him, people noticed. They made judgments. They made decisions about who they wanted to work with. Tiffany quit her job to be with Brandon, confident he could support both of them. But now, watching their bank accounts slowly drain, she was starting to have doubts. Maybe I should look for a new job, she said one evening, 3 weeks after the court hearing. What? Brandon looked up from his laptop, where he was desperately trying to find new clients. A job. I should get a job. Tiffany was looking at their bills spread across the kitchen table. Brandon, we can't afford this house on just your income. The mortgage is killing us. I'll get more clients, Brandon insisted. It's just a slow period. It's been a slow period for months, Tiffany pointed out. And my resume has a gap in it now. I quit my last job without notice. That's not going to look good to potential employers. Brandon felt something cold settle in his stomach. When Tiffany had quit her job, it had felt exciting, like they were starting a new chapter together. But now that decision seemed impulsive, maybe even stupid. His phone buzzed. Another email from a potential client, declining his proposal. They had gone with someone else. Again. This is her fault, Brandon said suddenly. What? Tiffany looked confused. Naomi. This is her fault. She built that company to get back at me. To make me look bad. Tiffany stared at him. Brandon, she built a company because she's smart and talented. This has nothing to do with you. Of course it has to do with me, Brandon snapped. She did this to prove something. To embarrass me. She did this because you cheated on her and then acted like she was worthless, Tiffany said, her voice harder than Brandon had ever heard it. And now you're upset because it turns out she was worth a lot more than you ever realized. They argued for an hour, their voices rising and falling in the empty house. By the end of it, Tiffany had moved into the guest room and Brandon was alone in the master bedroom, staring at the ceiling and wondering how everything had gone so wrong. Meanwhile, across town, Naomi was at a business dinner with potential partners from 3 different countries. Precision Solutions was expanding internationally. They were opening offices in London, Tokyo, and Sydney. The company's value was climbing every month as more businesses adopted their platform. Naomi's phone buzzed with a text from Gregory. CNN wants to interview you about Precision Solutions. They're doing a segment on successful women entrepreneurs. Naomi smiled and typed back, schedule it. She had no time to think about Brandon or his struggles. She had an empire to build, and it was growing faster than she had ever imagined possible. The CNN interview aired on a Thursday evening. Naomi had been interviewed before, but this was different. This was national television, a primetime segment about innovative entrepreneurs changing their industries. The interviewer, a well-known journalist named Patricia Liu, did not waste time with softball questions. You launched Precision Solutions just 8 months ago, Patricia said, and it's already valued at over $500 million. That's extraordinary growth. What's your secret? Naomi sat in a green leather chair, wearing a royal blue dress that complemented her skin tone perfectly. She looked calm, confident, comfortable under the bright studio lights. There's no secret, Naomi replied. I identified a real problem that small businesses face, operations management without spending a fortune, and I created a solution. The platform works because it addresses genuine needs. But you developed this while going through a divorce, is that correct? Naomi had known this question was coming. Her publicist had warned her that the personal angle would come up. She had decided to be honest about it. Yes, she said simply. Sometimes life's difficult moments push us to discover what we're truly capable of. Your ex-husband had no idea about the company during the divorce proceedings? He knew I was working on a project. He didn't take it seriously. Naomi's expression did not change, but something in her eyes made it clear that the subject of her ex-husband was not up for extended discussion. Patricia, being a good journalist, caught the hint and moved on. What's next for Precision Solutions? International expansion. We're opening offices in London, Tokyo, and Sydney over the next 6 months. We're also developing additional features for the platform, including advanced analytics and artificial intelligence integration. The interview continued for another 15 minutes, covering Naomi's vision for the company, her thoughts on women in technology, and her advice for aspiring entrepreneurs. She was articulate, knowledgeable, and compelling. The segment ended with footage of Naomi at her company's headquarters, walking through the open office space, talking with her team, standing in front of floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. She looked powerful, successful, and completely unbothered by anything from her past. The interview went viral within hours. Not just because of the business success story, but because someone had done some digging into Naomi's background. Within a day, social media was buzzing with the story of how Naomi's ex-husband had cheated on her with his secretary, how Naomi had walked away from the divorce with nothing, and how she had then built a massive company while her ex-husband struggled. This is the ultimate revenge story, one popular tweet said, accumulating thousands of retweets. She didn't fight for half his assets because she was about to have all her own assets, another person posted, with screenshots comparing Brandon's small consulting firm to Precision Solutions. Someone found photos from Naomi's arrival at the courthouse, the private jet in the background, her red suit, the confident walk. Those images spread across every platform, becoming symbols of triumph and vindication. Brandon saw all of it. He was tagged in posts, sent links by people who somehow thought he needed to be informed. His inbox filled with messages, some sympathetic, most not. Did you really cheat on the Precision Solutions CEO? One message asked. How does it feel to be the biggest idiot in America right now? Another one said. Tiffany was getting her own share of attention. People had found her social media accounts, had figured out she was the secretary Brandon had cheated with. The comments on her post were brutal. You gave up a job for a man who lost a woman worth $500 million. How does that feel? This is what happens when you think you're winning but you're actually just helping someone else lose everything. Tiffany made her accounts private, but the damage was done. Several of her old friends had commented publicly, distancing themselves from her choices. I can't believe you did this to Naomi, one former friend wrote. She was always so kind to everyone. At his office, Brandon was losing clients faster than he could replace them. People did not want to be associated with him. His name had become synonymous with short-sighted foolishness, with throwing away something valuable for something fleeting. His receptionist, a middle-aged woman named Patricia, gave her notice. I found a position elsewhere, she said, not meeting his eyes. Where? Brandon asked, though he already suspected he knew the answer. A company that's partnered with Precision Solutions, actually. They're expanding their team. After she left, Brandon sat alone in his office and stared at his computer screen. He pulled up Precision Solutions' website. Naomi's photo was on the About Us page, professional and polished. The site listed all the company's achievements, the clients they served, the awards they had won. There was a section about careers. Brandon clicked on it almost without thinking. The job listings were impressive, positions for developers, business analysts, marketing specialists. The salaries were excellent, well above industry standard. The benefits were generous. Brandon's own company could barely afford to pay him, let alone hire new staff. His phone rang. Tiffany. We need to talk, she said when he answered. About what? About us. About this situation we're in. They met at the house that evening. Tiffany had her suitcases packed. I'm moving out, she said before Brandon could speak. What? Why? Because this isn't working, Brandon. We both know it. You're not over Naomi. Every time her name comes up, you get this look on your face like you're trying to figure out what went wrong. I am not. You are, Tiffany interrupted. And I don't want to be with someone who's constantly comparing me to his ex-wife. Especially when his ex-wife is now a multimillionaire CEO and I'm just the woman who helped him destroy his marriage. Tiffany, come on. We can work through this. No, we can't. Tiffany picked up her suitcases. I'm going to stay with my sister while I figure out what to do next. I need to find a job, rebuild my reputation, and frankly, being with you is not helping any of that. She left. Brandon stood in the doorway and watched her car pull away, taking with her the last remnants of what he had thought would be his perfect new life. The house felt enormous and empty. Brandon walked through it room by room, seeing all the things he had fought to keep in the divorce. The furniture he and Naomi had picked out together. The paintings she had chosen. The kitchen where she used to cook his favorite meals. He had thought he was winning when he got to keep all of this. But now he could see that Naomi had been playing a completely different game, one where material possessions meant nothing compared to building something lasting and meaningful. His phone buzzed again. Another client was canceling their contract. They sent a polite email saying they were taking their business in a different direction, but Brandon knew what it really meant. Nobody wanted to work with him anymore. He sat down on the couch in the house he had insisted on keeping, and realized he had lost everything that actually mattered. And the worst part was he had done it to himself. While Brandon sat alone in his empty house, Naomi was at a gala celebrating innovative tech companies. She wore an elegant emerald green gown, her hair styled in an updo that showed off the diamond necklace Gregory had joked was excessive but perfect. She gave a speech about the importance of supporting women in technology. She networked with industry leaders. She laughed at jokes and made business connections that would help Precision Solutions grow even more. And she did not think about Brandon Sterling once. 3 months after the CNN interview, Brandon's consulting firm closed. He could not pay the rent on his office space. He could not afford to keep his business license active. The clients had all left and no new ones were coming. He put the house on the market. The house that had seemed so important during the divorce, that he had fought to keep, now felt like an anchor dragging him underwater. The mortgage payments were impossible to maintain on his dwindling savings. The realtor he hired was sympathetic but realistic. The market's soft right now, she explained. And honestly, Mr. Sterling, your situation has been pretty public. Some buyers might be hesitant because of the association. Because my ex-wife became successful? Brandon asked bitterly. Because of how it all went down, the realtor corrected gently. People read stories. They form opinions. It affects property values sometimes. The house sat on the market for 2 months before they got an offer. It was lower than Brandon had hoped, but he needed to sell. He accepted it. His lawyer, Mr. Brighton, called him one afternoon with news that made everything worse. I received a call from Nathan Price, Mr. Brighton said. Naomi's lawyer? Brandon's heart rate picked up. Was she suing him? Did she want something from him? Yes. But this isn't what you think. He was calling as a courtesy to inform me that Precision Solutions is opening a new regional headquarters in this area. They're going to be a major employer here, bringing in hundreds of jobs. Why is that my business? Brandon asked, though he already felt the cold dread of understanding. Because it means your ex-wife's company is going to be everywhere. In the news, in the business community, at every networking event. Her success is going to be impossible to avoid. After the call ended, Brandon looked up the announcement. It was already public. Precision Solutions was investing $50 million into a new facility that would employ over 300 people. The governor had issued a statement praising the company's decision. The local news was running stories about the economic impact. And in every article, every announcement, there was Naomi's name and photo. CEO Naomi Sterling, the woman who had turned a divorce into a springboard for extraordinary success. Brandon's phone rang. His mother. I saw the news about Naomi's company, she said without preamble. Brandon, what were you thinking? Mom, not now. You had a good woman. A smart, kind, beautiful woman who supported you. And you threw her away for what? For Tiffany? Tiffany and I broke up months ago, Brandon said tiredly. I know. She called me apologizing for her part in everything. At least she has the decency to feel ashamed. His mother's voice was sharp with disappointment. You could learn something from that. Are you calling just to make me feel worse? Brandon asked. I'm calling because I'm your mother and I'm worried about you. But I'm also calling because I'm ashamed of what you did. Naomi deserved better than what you gave her. After his mother hung up, Brandon sat in his mostly empty house, surrounded by boxes, and faced the reality of his situation. He was 35 years old, his business had failed, his girlfriend had left him, his mother was disappointed in him, and his ex-wife was building an empire. He had thought cheating on Naomi was taking what he wanted. But really he had just thrown away everything that mattered. Meanwhile, Naomi was having the best year of her life. Precision Solutions' international expansion was exceeding all projections. The London office was thriving. Tokyo had already doubled its projected client base. Sydney was preparing to launch a regional platform variant that would serve the entire Asia-Pacific market. The company's valuation had climbed past $800 million. Investment firms were constantly calling, wanting to buy in. Tech giants were offering partnerships. Naomi's calendar was booked months in advance with speaking engagements, board meetings, and strategy sessions. She had hired a personal assistant, a brilliant young woman named Jade who kept Naomi's life organized and running smoothly. She had bought a beautiful penthouse apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She drove a luxury car, wore designer clothes, and traveled first class. But the best part, the part that really mattered to Naomi, was the work itself. Every day she got to solve problems, build something meaningful, and help small businesses succeed. She mentored young entrepreneurs, especially women and people of color who faced extra barriers in the tech industry. She funded scholarships and created internship programs. Precision Solutions had grown beyond just a company. It was becoming a movement, a symbol of what was possible when you believed in yourself and worked hard. Gregory called her one evening while she was reviewing quarterly reports. "I have news," he said. "Business Weekly wants to put you on their cover." The CEO who turned heartbreak into $500 million. Naomi laughed. "That's a bit dramatic." "It's accurate though. You took the worst situation and turned it into something incredible." "I took a bad situation and chose to focus on my own potential instead of someone else's betrayal," Naomi corrected. "There's a difference." "Same result though. You're an inspiration to millions of people, Naomi. Especially to women who've been underestimated or overlooked. They see your story and think, maybe I can do something extraordinary too." After the call, Naomi sat at her desk and thought about that. Inspiration. She had never set out to be inspiring. She had just wanted to prove to herself that she could build something real, something that was entirely hers. But if her success helped other people believe in themselves, then maybe the pain of the past year had served a purpose beyond just her own growth. Her phone buzzed with a text from Robert, the billionaire investor who had become her mentor. "Dinner next week? Want to discuss your 5-year expansion plan?" Naomi smiled and typed back, "Absolutely. I'll have my assistant coordinate with yours." 5 years ago, she had been a wife who made herself small to support her husband. Now she was a CEO coordinating schedules with billionaires to discuss global expansion strategies. The transformation was almost hard to believe. But it was real. She had made it real through work, determination, and the decision to never let anyone else define her worth again. Brandon heard about the Business Weekly cover before it hit newsstands. A former colleague sent him a preview image with the message, "Thought you should see this." There was Naomi on the cover, wearing a maroon power suit, standing in her office with the city skyline behind her. She looked confident, powerful, successful. The headline read, "The Rise of Naomi Sterling, How She Built an Empire from Nothing." From nothing. That stung. Because Brandon knew that nothing referred to what she had taken from their divorce. It referred to how she had left their marriage with no assets, no claims, no demands, and had then built something extraordinary entirely on her own. He had given her nothing, and she had turned that nothing into everything. The article would be published next week. Brandon knew what that meant. More interviews, more attention, more success for Naomi. More confirmation of his own mistakes. He finished packing his boxes. The house sale would close in 2 weeks. He was moving into a small apartment, something affordable, something that fit his new reality. As he taped up the last box, Brandon found an old photo album. He opened it, flipping through pictures from his marriage to Naomi. There she was, smiling at their wedding, laughing at a beach vacation, looking at him with such love and trust. He had destroyed that. For what? For Tiffany, who had left him the moment things got difficult. For the thrill of an affair that had lasted less than a year. For his own ego and short-sightedness. Brandon closed the album and put it in a box marked storage. Some mistakes he was learning you had to live with forever. This was his. Naomi stood in the main hall of Precision Solutions' new headquarters and felt a surge of pride so strong it almost overwhelmed her. The building was beautiful, all glass and steel and modern design, with open spaces that encouraged collaboration and private areas for focused work. The Precision Solutions logo hung in the lobby, 10 feet tall and gleaming. "What do you think?" Gregory asked, coming to stand beside her. I think we did it, Naomi replied. This is real. This is actually real. 300 employees now worked for Precision Solutions across 4 countries. The company served over 10,000 clients. The platform had won multiple industry awards. And this building, this magnificent building, was the physical manifestation of everything Naomi had built. The grand opening ceremony was scheduled for the next day. Press would be there, local politicians, business leaders, investors. But tonight was just for the team, a private celebration before the public attention arrived. Naomi had planned an employee appreciation event. Dinner, awards for outstanding contributors, bonuses for everyone. She wanted her team to know they were valued, that their work mattered, that this success belonged to all of them. The catering staff set up tables in the main conference room. Jade coordinated everything with her usual efficiency, checking lists and confirming details. Robert flew in for the occasion, along with several other major investors. Even Nathan Price came, bringing his wife and joking that he rarely got to see the happy endings of his cases. As employees started arriving, Naomi greeted each one personally. She knew all their names, knew their roles, knew something personal about their lives. This was her family now, this team of brilliant, dedicated people who had believed in her vision. Marcus, no, that was a disallowed name. Timothy, her executive assistant, pulled her aside. There's someone here to see you. He's not on the list. Naomi frowned. Who? Brandon Sterling. He's at the front desk asking to speak with you. Naomi's first instinct was to say no, to have security escort him out. But curiosity won. Tell him I'll give him 5 minutes. In my office. She walked to her office, a spacious room on the top floor with windows overlooking the city. Her desk was clean, organized, professional. The walls held framed awards and photos of the team at various company milestones. Brandon arrived a few minutes later, escorted by Timothy. He looked older than Naomi remembered, tired and worn down. He wore a suit that had seen better days, and his confidence, that easy charm he used to carry everywhere, was gone. Hello, Brandon, Naomi said, remaining behind her desk. She did not offer him a seat. Hi, Naomi. Thank you for seeing me. He glanced around the office, taking in the success that surrounded her. This is impressive. Was there something you needed? Naomi kept her voice cool and professional. I wanted to apologize, Brandon said. For everything. For cheating on you, for dismissing your work, for being so blind to who you really were. Naomi studied him for a moment. The apology sounded sincere, but it also sounded like it came too late and for the wrong reasons. Why now? She asked. Why apologize now after all this time? Because I finally understand what I lost, Brandon admitted. Not your money or your success. I lost you. The woman who believed in me, who supported me, who would have done anything for our marriage. I threw that away and I'm sorry. I appreciate the apology, Naomi said. But Brandon, I need you to understand something. I'm not successful because you left me. I'm successful because I finally stopped waiting for your approval. You leaving was painful, but it was also freeing. It let me become who I was always meant to be. I know. I see that now. Brandon looked down at his hands. I heard Tiffany is engaged. To some guy she met at her sister's place. They're getting married next month. Good for her, Naomi said and meant it. She held no grudge against Tiffany. The affair had been Brandon's betrayal, his choice. Are you seeing anyone? Brandon asked. Naomi raised an eyebrow. That's not your concern anymore. Is there anything else? Brandon stood there for another moment, looking like he wanted to say more, but finally he shook his head. No. Just be well, Naomi. You deserve all of this success. I know I do, Naomi replied. Goodbye, Brandon. He left. Naomi watched him go, feeling nothing but relief that this chapter of her life was truly, finally closed. She returned to the celebration. Her team was laughing, eating, sharing stories. Gregory caught her eye and raised his glass in a silent toast. She smiled and raised hers back. Later that evening, Naomi gave a speech thanking her team. She talked about the journey they had been on together, the challenges they had overcome, the victories they had achieved. When I started Precision Solutions, she said, I was in a difficult place in my life. But this company gave me purpose. It gave me a goal to work toward, a reason to push forward. And all of you, every single person in this room, you helped make that possible. This success is not just mine. It belongs to all of us. The room erupted in applause. Naomi looked out at the faces of her team, these people who had believed in her vision and worked so hard to make it reality, and she felt a contentment she had never experienced in her marriage. This was what success felt like. Not revenge, not proving someone wrong, but building something meaningful with people who valued you. After the celebration ended, Naomi stood alone in her office, looking out at the city lights. Her phone buzzed with a message from her mother. Saw the news about the new building. So proud of you, sweetheart. Naomi smiled and typed back, thanks, Mom. I'm proud of me too. And she was. Not in an arrogant way, but in the deep, settled way of someone who had discovered their own strength and chosen to use it well. Tomorrow the grand opening would bring more attention, more interviews, more opportunities. But tonight, Naomi just stood in her office and appreciated how far she had come. From a woman who had found her husband cheating to a CEO running a $500 million company. From someone who had accepted a divorce with nothing to someone who had built everything on her own terms. The journey had been hard. But it had been worth it. 6 months later, Naomi received the notification that she had been selected as Businesswoman of the Year by the National Business Association. The award ceremony would be held in New York City, a black tie gala attended by the most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders in the country. Naomi sat at her desk, reading the letter, and felt tears prick her eyes. Not sad tears. Happy tears. Proud tears. This was validation from the highest levels of the business world. This was recognition that she belonged among the best. She called her mother first. Then Gregory. Then her key team members. Everyone celebrated with her, their excitement and pride echoing through phone calls and video chats. The dress for the gala was a custom creation. A stunning floor-length gown in deep crimson with intricate beadwork that caught the light with every movement. Her hair was styled in elegant curls. Her makeup was flawless. When Naomi looked at herself in the mirror the night of the ceremony, she barely recognized the woman staring back. This was not the quiet wife who had made herself small. This was not the heartbroken woman who had discovered her husband's affair. This was a CEO, a leader, a woman who had built an empire and claimed her place among the most successful people in the business world. The gala was held at a luxury hotel in Manhattan. The ballroom was filled with round tables covered in white linens, centerpieces of white roses, and enough wealth and power to reshape industries. Naomi walked in with Gregory and Robert, her 2 mentors and friends who had been with her from the beginning. People recognized her immediately. Conversations paused. Heads turned. Several attendees came over to introduce themselves and congratulate her on the award. Your company is revolutionizing business operations, one tech CEO told her. We're looking at partnering with Precision Solutions for our small business clients. I read your interview in Business Weekly, a venture capitalist said. Your story is incredible. You're an inspiration. Naomi accepted the compliments graciously, networking and building relationships that would help Precision Solutions continue to grow. This was her world now, these rooms full of successful people who respected her mind and her achievements. Dinner was served. Speeches were given. Then came the moment Naomi had been waiting for. And now, the host said, we come to our most prestigious award of the evening. Businesswoman of the Year recognizes an entrepreneur who has demonstrated exceptional leadership, innovation, and impact. This year's recipient launched a company less than 2 years ago that is now valued at over $1 billion. She has created hundreds of jobs, transformed an industry, and inspired countless others with her story of resilience and determination. Please welcome Naomi Sterling, CEO of Precision Solutions. The room erupted in applause. Naomi stood, smoothing her crimson gown, and walked to the stage. The lights were bright, the audience enormous, but she felt calm. This was her moment. She had earned it. She accepted the Crystal Award, a beautiful piece that caught the light and reflected it in rainbow colors. Then she stepped to the microphone. Thank you, she began. This award is overwhelming, humbling, and deeply meaningful. When I started Precision Solutions, I did not do it to win awards. I did it because I needed to prove something to myself. I needed to know that I could build something real, something lasting, something that was entirely mine. She paused, looking out at the audience. Many of you know my story. You know that I started this company shortly after my divorce. What you might not know is that during my marriage I stopped believing in my own potential. I made myself smaller, quieter, less ambitious because I thought that was what being a good partner meant. It took losing my marriage to realize I had been losing myself. The room was silent, everyone listening intently. Precision Solutions exists because I decided to stop apologizing for my intelligence, my ambition, and my drive. It exists because I surrounded myself with people who believed in me, who pushed me to think bigger and aim higher. Gregory, Robert, my incredible team, you all helped me see what was possible. She held up the award. This belongs to all of us. But it also belongs to everyone who has ever been told they are too much or not enough. To everyone who has been underestimated or overlooked. To everyone who has had to start over and build from nothing. You can do this too. You can create something extraordinary. You just have to believe you deserve it. The applause was thunderous. People stood, clapping and cheering. Naomi saw several women in the audience wiping tears from their eyes. She walked off the stage and was immediately surrounded by people wanting to congratulate her, to shake her hand, to tell her how much her words meant to them. It took 20 minutes to make her way back to her table. Gregory hugged her tightly. That was perfect. You earned this, Robert added. Every bit of it. The rest of the evening was a blur of conversations, photos, and celebration. Naomi's phone filled with messages from friends, colleagues, and even people she had not talked to in years. Everyone wanted to share in this moment with her. At the end of the night, as Naomi rode in a car back to her hotel, she finally had a moment of quiet reflection. She looked at the award sitting on the seat beside her, this beautiful crystal symbol of everything she had achieved. 2 years ago, she had been standing in a hallway watching her marriage fall apart. She had felt broken, betrayed, lost. If someone had told her then that she would be here now, accepting Businesswoman of the Year, running a billion-dollar company, she would not have believed it. But she had done it. Not through revenge, though people like to frame it that way. Not through anger or bitterness. She had done it through work, determination, and the simple decision to stop letting other people define her worth. Brandon was not part of her life anymore. She did not think about him, did not wonder what he was doing, did not care. He was a chapter in her story, but not a defining one. The defining chapters were the ones she was writing now, filled with success, purpose, and genuine fulfillment. Her phone buzzed with a message from Jade. Boss, we just got 3 acquisition offers from major tech companies. Each over $2 billion. Want to schedule calls to discuss. Naomi smiled. $2 billion. Her little software platform that Brandon had called cute now had companies competing to buy it for billions. Not interested in selling, she typed back. We're just getting started. Because the truth was, Precision Solutions was more than just a company now. It was a legacy. It was proof that you could lose everything and still build something extraordinary. It was inspiration for everyone who had ever been told they were not enough. And Naomi was not done yet. She had plans for global expansion, for new product lines, for charitable foundations. She had dreams that were bigger than revenge, bigger than proving anyone wrong. She had dreams that were just about building the best company, living the best life, and being the best version of herself possible. That night, as Naomi got ready for bed in her hotel room, she looked at the award one more time. Businesswoman of the Year. She set it carefully on the dresser, turned off the lights, and climbed into bed. Tomorrow she would fly home. She would go back to her office, her team, her work. She would continue building, growing, expanding. The story was far from over. But tonight, she let herself simply feel proud. Proud of how far she had come. Proud of what she had built. Proud of the woman she had become. Brandon Sterling had cheated on her, had underestimated her, had thrown away their marriage for a temporary thrill. And in doing so, he had accidentally given her the greatest gift possible. The freedom to discover who she really was and what she was truly capable of achieving. Naomi smiled in the darkness. The revenge people talked about, the vindication they celebrated, it was not about hurting Brandon or proving him wrong. The real revenge was this, living well. Building something meaningful. Being genuinely, completely happy. And Naomi was happy. Happier than she had ever been in her marriage. Happier than she had imagined possible on that terrible day when she found Brandon with Tiffany. She had not just survived the betrayal. She had transformed it into fuel for extraordinary success. That was the real victory. Not the billion-dollar company or the awards or the recognition. The real victory was becoming the person she was always meant to be, free from anyone else's limitations or expectations. Naomi fell asleep with a smile on her face, already dreaming of tomorrow's possibilities.